thank you for having me at this year's Information for All conference. Very significant, of course, that the access to information, but I think I'm going to start with this. I think it's even more important, information for all, but also just information at all. By which I mean, when we talk about artificial intelligence and humanism or the human condition, it's very difficult to get a real sense of what is happening in this space of interaction between ourselves and machines. Let me give you an example. I am working with a group of other philosophers, computer scientists, doctors, and lawyers out of the Frankfurt Big Data Lab in Germany. And we are performing ethical evaluations on and with AI-intensive companies and organizations. So our current case is quite interesting. It involves a hospital in Brusseau, Italy, and their response to the COVID epidemic. Now, one concern they had is that they would be overwhelmed by a number of patients and not have a sufficient number of radiologists to analyze chest x-rays that they were taking of patients and that would allow the creation of a diagnosis and a prognosis. So they hatched the idea of using artificial intelligence to read human chest x-rays and produce a result with respect to COVID. Now, there was a slight problem, which is that there was insufficient training data, at least initially, to make this work. At least there was insufficient training data in terms of existent x-rays in which patients had agreed to allow their personal health information to be used in these kinds of studies. So, without going too deep into this, some of the corners that we normally want to keep clearly defined of personal information protection and privacy. Some of these corners were rounded a bit in order to gain access to chest x-rays so they could train the artificial intelligence and serve what is obviously and clearly an important social purpose. So we've been discussing that in several other aspects of their AI efforts during the early stages of the pandemic. And what I want to underline here is that we have been discussing. We've been doing this now for 9 months or something, and there's no end in sight. It's a real problem. We have quite a bit of theoretical material developed for doing artificial intelligence ethics, and we have people who are naturally involved, people who've trained or studied the history of philosophy, medicine, law, and so on. But it is an arduous process. And as I say, the case that we are working on is one case in one place at one time. And we're up to 9 months and counting. This simply will not work. Artificial intelligence is sprawling across our existence. Right? It occurs in healthcare. It occurs in insurance, dynamic insurance. Think of the Lemonade Insurance Company. It occurs in finance, Moneyline. It occurs obviously in social media. It occurs in hiring. It occurs in almost all of the important aspects of our lives, and we haven't even touched yet on dating applications. So whether it's our professional life, our personal life, our romantic or individual life, we are being consumed by artificial intelligence technology. And there is no way that our traditional ways of doing AI ethics or of thinking about how the human condition is interacting with the technology, there is no way that we can keep up. So what this presentation is about is a proposed solution, decentralized AI ethics. is an attempt to create ethics knowledge on a vast scale and very rapidly, so that the kind of information, the kind of humanist information that we want to understand our experiences with technology, that kind of information can be accessible to everyone everywhere. That's the goal. And I think that there are 3 steps to this goal. The first is the source of the information. And let's compare decentralized with centralized AI ethics. So, as I've said, when you do centralized AI ethics, you gather together experts and you put us in a room and we talk for a long time. I think that the source of information for decentralized AI ethics will be instead common public information. I'm thinking of, for example, corporate quarterly reports or news and journalism and those sorts of public investigations, or that never-ending river of data called social media. So just starting with those 3, there is abundant information publicly available from those sources, which gives us good indications, if we can find them, good indications of how you and I, human beings, are interacting with the technology around us. So that's the first step. AI ethics, when it moves from centralized to decentralized, no longer begins with experts, but instead with common public information. The second step is evaluation. For centralized AI ethics, the way evaluation works is we gather experts and we talk a lot. Decentralized AI ethics starts with machine learning and natural language processing. And the idea is that this vast information that I discussed in the previous step can be analyzed or filtered to gain a sense of how you and I are interacting with the machines. And to do that, what we need are metrics. And the metrics that I am proposing that we use are those which are more or less universally accepted from academic AI ethics. That would be on the personal level. We have the metric of autonomy, which asks, does the AI give us opportunities, create possibilities, or does it constrict our possibilities and what we can do? Then there's privacy, which is control over our personal information. So those are personal principles. Then there are social principles, and we can ask, is the AI fair? Does it distribute its benefits evenly across society? And then there's also a social well-being principle. We can ask, when everything is taken into consideration, does the AI make society a better place? So those are social principles. And then there are 2 technological principles. The first is performance. Does the AI do what it promises to do? And then there is accountability. That is, when something goes wrong, can we determine why that happened and correct it? So we have these metrics, or these 6 principles, which, as I say, are drawn, widely accepted, and drawn from academic AI ethics. And the task of evaluation is to filter public information across those metrics and create a kind of representation of how well individual technologies or companies are doing. Is a company like Lemonade Insurance, let's say, or Moneyline Finance, is that serving or detracting from autonomy? Is it serving or detracting from privacy? And so on. Now, for human beings to do this, it takes a lot of time, but we can do it. The question is, can computers do this? Or can we train AI to do AI ethics on AI? That's in essence what I'm proposing. And we will find out, because this September, I am beginning a project at the University of Trento in Italy in the computer science department. The broad title for the project is AI Human Impact. And what we will be trying to do is harness the powers of machine learning and natural language processing to first gather this information about companies, and then to rate those companies, or to to measure them across these principles so that we can have an easy way to understand how the companies are functioning in human terms. So that's step two, the process, the computer science and philosophy cooperative process at the University of Trento in Italy. And then step three is implementation. For centralized AI ethics, the way that the ideas are put into practice is generally experts gather and talk for a long time, and then we write an academic paper that takes another year to be published. And then after a year of talk and a year of publication, then finally the information is available for, say, representatives of governments or so on to make regulations and laws. So it's a year after year after year process to maybe make some laws about how AI functions. The obvious problem is, by the time the laws have been written, the AI has already changed so much that the laws no longer apply. By contrast, for decentralized AI ethics, the implementation will be in real time. Why? Because what artificial intelligence and machine learning and natural language processing can do, their strength, is that they can gather and analyze vast amounts of information immediately and produce results that anybody can see. These results can be published just like, say, Google Trends or so on. So someone could look up, anyone who's connected could look up and understand, well, how is, say, the MoneyLion finance company doing in terms of autonomy or in terms of privacy? So what I want to say is that for the implementation phase, we can get large amounts of ethical data out to the public in real time. And I think that that is a critical element to solving this problem that we're confronting today, which is that we can do AI ethics and we can gain the information, but it's too slow and we're too far behind. Right. So to wrap this up, this presentation is called Decentralized AI Ethics, or rather AI Ethics Decentralized and Accelerated. And what I want to say is that it is decentralized because the source of information is no longer going to be experts in endless discussion, but rather public information that can be analyzed by natural language processing. And then it is accelerated because instead of a multi-year process of experts producing papers and so on, we are going to be able to produce immediate metrics about how companies are performing in terms of their autonomy, in terms of their privacy, and so on, and make that information available in real time everywhere. So it's universal AI ethics. It's information flowing about every technology and company all the time. Thanks for having me.